Hello, everybody. Brendan McGinn here, Portfolio Manager for the State Charter School Board, and I'm going to step in for Marie today and lead this meeting. And we'll get started soon, but thank you guys for joining. Okay, so once again, thank you guys for joining. My name is Brendan McGinn. I'm the Portfolio Manager for State Charter School Board, and some of you I've met, some of you I haven't, and look forward to meeting those that I haven't. So this is our directors meeting for May. This is the last one until we start up again next year. I think we have a little introduction, or we have on the schedule a little introduction by our leadership team, but they haven't joined yet. So I see Cassie is ready to go. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Cassie, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and get started on our meeting today.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to see all of you. I have seen some of you before because I used to run a charter school. I built and ran a charter school for, well, including the startup, I guess, almost 9 years. So I dearly loved it. So I was very deeply immersed into the charter world. So let me tell you who I am. I am the parent liaison and engagement person for the state. I report directly to the board, so that's a little bit unusual. And I'm going to give you some stuff in the chat, some links. A little bit of my background. I've been in education for almost 25 years now. I was a teacher, secondary ed for biology and English, and then I ran or helped to run an online school for 7 years in that mix. And so I've taught in the regular classroom, did that, and then opened the charter school and did that. And we even built the building, so I did all of that as well. I built it all by myself. No, I helped. I had to be all involved in the construction process though, and that was fun. And then I took 2 years. I went to the Bay Area and I created some after-school programs and ran one of the second largest summer camps for some students in Alameda School District. Well, it was actually the second largest for that company in the nation. So it was a big summer camp. It was the size of a very large elementary school. So then now I'm back here. My mom, because of her health, declining health, I came back. So I am now the parent liaison. And in the chat, I gave you some links. My job description is actually in legislation. It was created last year out of the legislative session. And so I put that code in there. I don't have that linked in there, but you can look it up if you want to see what my job is. My title is a little bit misleading in that it says parent liaison and parent engagement, but I also do help LEAs with parent engagement. So I have a lot of resources. I did put a link there to the parent portal, which is page that I run at USBE. And so I'm just going to give you a brief overview of some of the things I oversee. I deal with a lot of parent complaints. And so the hotline that parents fill out complaints, they don't come directly to me, but they do get sent to me sometimes. And a lot of times they don't understand, like how to go about things, or they don't know maybe what their rights are, things like that. So I help find some of those resources for them. I also help a little bit with the Utah Fits All Scholarship. We have a third-party administrator that takes care of that, but I do help parents navigate some of those questions if they have questions about that. I also answer questions about homeschooling if they have questions about that. So I'm sort of a one-stop shop for parents, unless it's specifically a department that can help them, like maybe special ed. A lot of those, they'll go to them and I can coordinate with them, but that's what I do. And you can see a lot of what I do on the parent portal. But my reason for being here is I wanted to make sure that all of you know that I am also a resource for you, and I am very much interested in trying to help schools and districts set up some parent engagement plans if they don't already have something going on. And I think it's important to note that parent involvement and parent engagement are very different things. We're looking more for parent engagement, and I think it's extremely important right now because education's changing so quickly. I think, across the nation, we have a lot of parent choice, and charters are one of those choices. And I think I advocate for choice because I think competition always helps you drive quality. So I think that's a good thing. And but in light of that, I would like to help LEAs and you all retain your populations of students, and the way to do that is engaging parents. And it is true that that is the third leg of the stool. But I think that that does equal more than just involvement. So I would really like it if you all had questions for me, though, more than me telling you everything. What do you need, and what can I do to help you move further down that road? And in what aspects do you think that this position can help you as an LEA? And do you have questions? Because I know there's been, you may have had parents that have sent in complaints. Are you wondering about that process? Is there anything I can help and ease your fears about sometimes some of that? Because I think it seems like a monster under the bed sometimes with that. So does anyone have any questions about that or about this position?
Cassie, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. How long have you been in this role? You said this was pretty new.
It started January.
Well, I'm just curious from your experience in education. You've got a lot of time in schools and then in this role, and as you've thought about it, as you think about current parents and their you know, what their concerns are, what their primary sort of disagreements are with schools in general or with charters, or I don't know if you can break it down that way, but what are you hearing from parents with regard to their relationship with schools, with teachers, with learning?
So I will say the number one, this is just me tracking the data that's coming out of the complaint process. And keep in mind, the board has tried to funnel a lot of that through there so that we could keep some data and get some ideas of what's going on. They're still going to call various departments directly and ask. So, you know, we can't track every single little thing, but the number one thing that is of concern from parents is special education, things that they feel like their needs aren't getting met in one way or another, or they have concerns or complaints. That's the number one thing. And if you just go off of the data from that complaint hotline, it's 60%. The second largest complaint, which has grown exponentially and has passed bullying, is sports questions and complaints. And then bullying is still number 3. So those are the top 3 complaints that we get. And that eats up, I mean, a really good portion. It's a big amount. I will say there's confusion on both parts for sure. Parents don't know. Sometimes they reach out to, we really try hard to make sure that the complaints go back to the LEA first, because that's a better place, because if there's no communication going on, we would really rather the LEA handle the complaint. Sometimes they will reach back out to us if they feel like they're not being heard. And I will say, number one, my job is often just listening and making parents feel like they're heard. And that does sometimes help a lot, just for them to say, you know, this is how I feel. So that, I do think there's some confusion on both parties as to how to handle those situations. And I'm just going to kind of go down this little rabbit hole. The parents don't know how to file a complaint with the LEA. Oftentimes they will email or call or something, but then a lot of schools don't have a complaint process in place that parents can access easily and see how would you like. And I would say that would be, if I was a director, I would make sure I have something that the parents know, and it really shows this is exactly the process that you should follow, you know, and you know, email this person, please list, you know, what your concerns are, that kind of stuff, because I think it's important to get the feedback. And as a director of a charter school for so many years, I had a form that parents could fill out because I wanted that real-time feedback. And it was really important to me because then I could see, you know, who, and sometimes it was the silliest things that could escalate into something big, but really by me seeing what their issue was, I could contact them readily and tell them, you know, like, this is what this is. And oftentimes it was just miscommunication or confusion. So I do think a lot of it is that, in all honesty, I really do. If they could get a better communication. And I will also say this, there are a lot of well, not a lot, but there's some really good surveys out there. BYU did one not very long ago. It's quite recent, actually. Parents feel like all LEAs and districts are communicating with them. The data says that they feel that they are getting information from you, but there's not a two-way communication. That is one of the things that they're not feeling. They don't feel like they can tell someone at your school level. And if I had my wish in this position, it would be that every school had a parent liaison that worked, you know, closely with the administration, so that you had someone to help navigate some of those things. But I know that's hard, and it's sort of scattered. Everyone's sort of in silos. Some people have PTAs, some don't, and some just deal with like special ed only, so there's a lot of people trying to help, but I think parents still don't know, where do I go to get my questions answered, sort of. And I feel like sometimes it's the secretary, they're the ones. So thank you though for that question. I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Tyler. Long time no see. Does anyone else have any questions?
Real
Cassio,
quick. Oh, go ahead.
Cassie, I was wondering if we could just pause for just a quick second. Superintendent Dixon is here, and she just wanted to say a quick word to the group. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Brendan. First of all, I want y'all to know that Cassie's awesome. When I knew that we got to snag her, we were so excited. She's doing a great job, and just had to make up the position. So for those of you that have stepped into a position and we just say, figure it out, that's kind of what Cassie has had to do. And she's doing a great job. I just wanted to hop on and wish you all a happy National Charter School Week, and tell you that I so appreciate the great leaders that we have. I was in DC for a couple of days this past week with a lot of charter advocate groups, and I was kind of just listening to how they interact with each other. And there was like this healthy competition, but they don't, in so many states, they don't really collaborate with each other, and just made me feel so proud that we have a way for you all to meet with each other and learn from each other and collaborate. And so I just wanted to share appreciation. I just kind of felt like your chief cheerleader as I listened to others. And again, just so much appreciate what you're doing, the care that you have for the students in your schools. And I know graduation's coming up and a lot of end of year activities that cause you great stress. So this is just a video love note from me to you, thanking you for all that you do. And again, just appreciate that we have charters and we have choice for our families, and the fact that you lead with care means the world to all of us. So thank you.
thank you so much for that. That was wonderful to hear. Tyler, go ahead with your question. Thank you for being patient there.
Oh, it's okay. I'd rather hear from Sid, but I put it in chat. So I just wanted to get Cassie out to Ruth.
Absolutely. All this time that I've known you, and we started the same year, and I've never even been to your school. Any other questions like about the complaint process or anything like that? Because that seems like the thing that's scary, I think, for some. You can reach out to me at any time. I haven't been reaching out directly to charter directors when I do get complaints, often because I think because I haven't gotten to meet you or say hi. And so I feel like it just seems, like a little weird, and like, I don't know, like it's like a big brother thing or something. It's just odd for me to be like, and by the way, I got a complaint from, you know what I mean? And I'm not I'm not like doing any kind of covert operation. I'm really here to help you as much as I am the parents. And like I said, a lot of time it's just confusion and miscommunication. My job is that if a parent asks me, about documentation or whatever, I do have to tell them, you can grandma request things. And I know that's hard for the LEA, but that's part of the reason they put me here is, so that there's transparency in what their rights are. So it's better if I can help the LEAs be prepared for those kinds of things than not. And I know it's hard for charters because you're one person. I mean, I've been there, I've done that. It's like you're running an entire district in one school. So I totally understand your workload and I understand what you do, but I'm here to help for sure, so please reach out. if I can help you in any way, shape, or form. And just so you know, on the parent portal, that page is always evolving. And there is a new section on there for LEA resources, for research and practice, best practice things that will get developed even more so. And we do, just so you know, we do have some districts that are already, that have really, really good programs in place already. I mean, really good programs, and they are absolutely willing to help you for free to set things up in your own schools and on your level, you know, whatever you need, and take what you need, don't use what you don't. And so anyway, if you're looking for that as well, and they would love to have you come look. So there are already really good resources out there. That's all I have, really. So on Parent Portal, all my information is there, and my phone, my email, all that. So please feel free to reach out anytime. And thank you so much for letting me come in and say hi.
Okay. Well, thank you, and we appreciate all the work that you're doing on behalf of parents and the school. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay. Our next presenter is Barbie from School Fees, and I see you're a little early, which I greatly appreciate. And when you're ready, you're welcome to start.
All right, you get share my screen here. Right. Well, thank you for allowing me to come and speak to the group. Can you see my presentation okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Like Brendan said, my name is Barbie Faust. I'm with the School Fees, and also on the meeting here is Scott Crapo. He's the other school fee monitor, so he's sitting in, and maybe Scott, if you want to introduce yourself so they can put a face with the name so they know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Scott Crapo. I've been with USBE for a couple of years now, and I've been on the school fees team the entire time. So,
all right. Thank you, Scott. All right, so let's get started here. We're just going to go a kind of a overview of school fees and then go into some of the changes that happened with this last legislative session. So school fee rule and code applies to all public schools, regardless if the LEA is a district or a charter, and it applies to grades K through 12. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 fee or 100 fees, you still have to comply with all the rules regarding school fees. And even the LEAs that don't charge fees, there's parts of the rule and code that still apply. So it's a really good idea to be familiar with the code, read through it, make sure that you are following it, even if you know, generally we don't charge fees, but there may be some little things that still apply that you need to be aware of. So let's start with who can you charge a school fee to? So no fees, best thing is start who you can't charge. No fees can be charged for grades K through 6. During the regular school day, everything should be free to the elementary students with a few exceptions. And you'll find with school fees, it is riddled with exceptions. There's exceptions to almost everything. So some of the exceptions for elementary students would be activities, school-sponsored activities outside of the regular school day. There is no limitation in charging a fee, whether they're secondary or elementary. If it's outside of the school day and it's voluntary and it does not affect any of their regular school day activities, you can charge a fee for that activity outside of the regular school day. You can charge fees to students in grade 6 if they attend a school that has students 7 through 12, and that 6th grade student follows a secondary model of instruction. So it's not just that they're housed with the secondary students, but they have to follow the same secondary instruction. Also, you can charge, or it's not actually charge, but you can supply a school supply list, voluntary supply list to the kindergarten through 6th grade students, as long as it has the required language on the supply notice. And the school supply notice, it must have this exact verbiage on the supply. Excuse me. And if it's posted on a website, make sure that the notice is in a prominent location that parents can see. Sometimes it's not easily visible, and it needs to be on every supply list. So if you have one for each grade, make sure it's at the top of every supply list so that parents are aware that it's only voluntary, they're not required, and if it's not sent, it will be furnished by the school. So secondary students may be charged a fee for any school-sponsored activity that occurs during the regular school day and for activities outside of the regular school day, regardless of the season. So that's your co-curricular, extracurricular, summer camps. If it's school-sponsored, then you can charge a fee for it, but also remember that those are subject to fee waiver. So the very basis of what school fee is understanding what is a school fee. A fee is something of monetary value, and this is pretty much the definition out of code, is something of monetary value, a charge, expense, deposit, rental, fine, or payment, regardless of how the payment is termed or described, excuse me, that is requested or required by an LEA as a condition to a student's participation, whether it is implied or explicitly mandated or necessary for a student to fully participate in a school-sponsored activity, class, or program. So it doesn't matter if you say, well, it's voluntary, but you have to bring it. Everybody's wearing the same stuff. If you imply that it is required, that supersedes the fact that you said it was voluntary. It's even implied that it's a requirement. That is a school fee. So what is provide, sponsored, and supported? It needs to meet one of these 4 criteria. If the activity is authorized by an LEA, managed by an LEA or an employee of the LEA in the employee's capacity, uses LEA resources, that would be the facility, the gym, it could be the park, your fields or whatever, or if you use public funds, more than inconsequentially, this is what it means to be provided, sponsored, or supported by the LEA. So what are some things that a fee does include? A fee includes instructional equipment and supplies, a musical instrument rental, a fine, and fines are kind of tricky because some fines are exempt from being a school fee, but they are specifically spelled out in code. They are the losing, wasting, or damaging of school property, failure to return school property, parking violation. But we'll cover that in just a minute. I'll give you the exact things that are not a fine. These fines that are included as school fees, this would be fines such as citizenship fine or truancy. We see cell phone confiscation fines. Those are all considered school fees. Credit remediation. is a school fee. School activity clothing, field trips, activity trips, this would be like your national competitions or state competitions if they had to go maybe overnight. The hotel, the lodging, the meals, those are all considered school fees. Payment to a third party for a school-sponsored activity. So if they're providing part of a school activity, say like admission to a museum, that would be considered a school fee. And these two things that have asterisks, these are, they were changed this last in House Bill 415. If the school activity clothing is retained by the student, then it becomes, that is considered a school fee. And instructional equipment and supplies, instructional equipment that is retained by the student. If they're not retained by the student, those are considered school equipment and cannot be charged a school fee. So those would be things like maybe a football helmet or the pads, or maybe an, I don't know, apron in class or something like that. But things that the school keeps and retains, those are school equipment, and you cannot charge a fee for those. The fee schedule and fee policy, excuse me, must be board approved each year by April 1st. The public must be given opportunity to make comments regarding the fee schedule and fee policy in 2 regularly scheduled board meetings. You can have the fee schedule and fee policy approved in that second meeting. You don't have to have 2 with public comments and then approve it. You can actually approve it in that second meeting. The LEA should be encouraging the public to participate in the development of their fee schedule and the waiver policy, so that they have buy-in and they understand what the fees are for. Also be aware that the public notice, you have to provide public notice on the public notice website, but there also is an additional parent notice that is required. And this is through your normal mode of communication to your parents. If you normally send out parent notices through like a calling tree or a email or text, that's what that means. And you need to alert them that there's going to be a board meeting where they're going to discuss and approve the fee schedule and the policies. So what needs to be on the fee schedule? For one thing, you cannot charge a fee unless it is on the fee schedule and has been board approved. So mid-year, if you have a fee that you, or an activity that you want to charge a fee for, just know that that fee has to go back through and get approved as it did for the main fee schedule. So any kind of amendments or changes to the fee schedule need to go back through the same approval process. So the fee schedule has to have the fee maximum for each fee that you're going to charge. And for each fee has to have a spend plan. And the spend plan is just a list of expenditures, types of expenditures. It doesn't have to be the exact item. You could have like uniforms or supplies. Those are types of expenditures. You wouldn't have to say, we're going to buy socks and a shirt and the shorts, or we're going to have pencils and paint. And, you don't have to list out every specific item, just the types of expenditures. The maximum fee amount cannot be more than the cost that is incurred by the LEA to provide the activity. The fees are not an avenue for making shortfalls up. You can only charge what it costs you to perform the activity or to provide the activity to the student. If the activity has multiple fees related to it that are required, or even that are related and not required, so optional, You should have each of the fees listed out and then a total for the activity, so that if a student, say, wants to go and participate in baseball, there should be the required fees and then maybe like the optional camps or spirit pack and those types of things, so that they can see all the different fees that are related to that activity. On your fee schedule, you should have a statement that all fees are subject to waiver, and parents have a right to appeal if they're denied a waiver, so that they know that where to go and if they're denied, or that all fees are subject to waiver. A lot of LEAs have a section on their fee schedule for non-waivable fees, which I think is a good idea. It's not required, but you can also have a non-waivable area, so that they know, like a yearbook or pictures or something like that is not subject to waiver. Which leads us into the next section. So what is not a fee? There's quite a few things that are considered non-waivable. That's what we call out when they're not subject to waiver. Excuse me. Personal discretionary purchases. This would be items such as a yearbook, school pictures, class ring, and school apparel, unless it's required for participation. So if your student body officer, they all have to wear their sweater or whatever together, show uniformity, that becomes a school fee, even though it is a personal discretionary purchase. If they're required to wear it, or even to have like a uniform appearance, that switches it from a non-waivable to a school fee, needs to be on the fee schedule, and is subject to waiver. So college credit for concurrent enrollment courses, this is the charge that is charged by the college. So if you're paying it to the college, that's considered non-waivable. If you have a charge for the concurrent enrollment class that the school is charging, that is a fee, and that would be subject to waiver. Advanced placement and the International Baccalaureate exam fees are considered non-waivable. So because they get college credit for when they take those classes, they're not considered a school fee, not subject to fee waiver. So here's the fines that are not a school fee: failing to return school property, losing, wasting, or damaging private or school property, improper use of property, including a parking violation. I actually got an email this morning from a charter school about an AP exam that the student missed, and the college board charged the school a fee for this missed student, and they asked whether or not that fine was subject to waiver. And because the student had made a commitment to take that exam and then failed to keep their commitment, that was like they were purchasing that exam, and the college board was charging the fine. And so that was wasting school property meaning the money that the school had to pay out for the missed exam. So in that case, it was not subject to waiver, and the student is liable for that fee that the college board was charging. So I thought that was a really interesting question. I hadn't received that before. So also school breakfast or lunch, those are not considered a school fee. A school uniform is not a school fee unless it's overly prescriptive and expensive. There's only one school in the state that this applies to. That's the Utah Military School. Their school uniform is costly, and so it is a school fee, and it is subject to waiver. A fully refundable deposit is not a school fee, but make sure that if you charge a deposit for school property for them to return it, that when they return the property, it is refunded. Insurance, unless it's required for participation. Charges related to a non-curricular club. And the definition of a non-curricular club is one that is initiated by a student or a student group. They may be authorized to use the school for to hold their meetings and stuff, but it's not a school-sponsored activity, so that's not subject to school fees or school waiver. And items subject to sales tax as described in the Utah Tax Commission publication 35. There is a link. I did send this PowerPoint to Brendan so that he can send it out if you'd like. There is a link that'll take you right to this publication so you can see exactly what items they're discussing. So fee waiver eligibility, there is these 6 categories, I believe it is, of who's eligible for a fee waiver and by what method. The most common is the household income. It's based on the same amount that is set for a free lunch, which is 130% of the federal income poverty level. Students receiving an SSI for a qualifying disability, and this would be for the student alone, not for the whole household, but just for the student. Examples would be like a traumatic brain injury, autism, cerebral palsy. There's but this is through Social Security, the qualifying disability. Family receives TANF or SNAP. They would qualify, and all the students in the household that are receiving that benefit would qualify for a fee waiver. A student in foster care or in state custody, and also a student who qualifies for McKinney-Vento. The school fee administrator, which is generally the director or maybe a vice principal or something like that, has the authority to grant a fee waiver on a case-by-case basis for students who don't qualify under one of these other categories. But because there's some extenuating circumstances, the family is unable to pay for the fee. This could be like medical bills or a death in the family or something like that, and it's really at the discretion of the administrator. If they just know that this family's having a hard time or whatever, they have the authority to grant a fee waiver based on that. So what changed with this House Bill 415 in the last legislative session? Beginning for the 24-25, they added the International Baccalaureate to the school fees. It used to have just advanced placement and concurrent enrollment, but they've added the IB classes so that they can charge for the textbooks, but they are subject to waiver. You can charge a fee for exams, and they're not subject to waiver. I would highly suggest that you reach out to the specialist at the USBE, because I know that they have funds that will help pay for students that are economically disadvantaged for their exams. Another thing that changed was they added a statement that each fee shall be authorized individually. And it was kind of confusing because we thought this was pretty clear in that they should have been doing this anyway, that each fee needed to be its own. But I talked to our attorney to make sure that they really didn't mean that every fee needed to be authorized and approved, because like I said, some LEAs have 100 or more fees, and so to think that they would have to authorize each fee seemed a little bit excessive. And so we determined that each fee just needs to be listed on the fee schedule so that they can see it and the board knows that, you know, that they're not just charging $300 for football, but that it has the different breakouts for the different fees for the activity or course. They also changed some definitions. The biggest change that happened was they removed fundraising from the definition of the fee. So when you're considering your fee maximums, before the fundraising had to be included in that maximum amount, that's no longer the case. This went before R-277-407 went to the Finance Committee last month, and they have drafted a bill and it's going on to the full board in June. They did an administrative rule that will cover fundraising, and it will be R-277-408. So if it passes the full board, that'll go into effect with the beginning new school year, which would probably mean that most LEAs will have to redo their fee schedules for next year. And I know that that's a big lift for, you know, a lot of people, because you still have to go through and do the two meetings and the public comment. So know that that's going to have to be changed, because there was a couple of other changes that we'll talk about here. Instructional equipment and supplies, like I said, that used to be two separate definitions, but they combined it into one. And now it's all under one definition, and they removed the consumable, non-reusable from the definition. Not sure why, but and I think they'll probably relook at this in the next legislative session because it made it kind of confusing. But the instructional equipment, these are retained by the school. This would be if they had like a chef's uniform or safety glasses that they kept, or a stethoscope if they were in a CNA class or something like that. So these are items that the student keeps after the class is done. School activity clothing, same thing. If they retain it after the class, then that was a big change in the school definition of school activity clothing. School equipment, this they added the word consumable to the definition, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because how can something be durable and consumable at the same time? So we expect that this will be updated in the next session, and this will be clarified. The reason that I believe that they did this is they put consumable in here to catch consumables that the student uses during the school day, but they don't retain. So I wouldn't be terribly concerned about this one as far as how to work this out, because this one I'm pretty sure is going to change. More definition changes that they did is they renumbered Part 6 textbooks into school fees. And that's where you can only charge a textbook for AP, IB, or the CE courses. So that changed. And an LEA may not charge for school equipment except for life cycle replacement of school equipment directly related to the extracurricular or co-curricular activity. This would be like football helmets or pads, or maybe wrestling mats or something like that, that's used for the extracurricular activity. So if it's used during the regular school day, they would you would not be able to charge for those life cycle replacement. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody asked, what about the April 1st deadline? Was that for the the fee schedule.
I'm gonna, oh, go ahead. I was gonna interject that comment came when you were saying that most people are gonna have to redo their fee schedule. And so the clarification is if it's past the April 1st deadline, what happens?
It is past the April 1st deadline, so it's not going to, I mean, obviously you can't hit that because it's already passed. So go ahead and just do it as quickly as possible to get it for the next school year so that and it'll probably, you're not adding to the fees, you're probably taking away the fee amount, so. But yeah, just do it as soon as you can. We know that you can't meet that April 1st. You did it the first time by April 1st, you probably good. Okay, so beginning in school year 25-26, they changed, and this is what it currently reads. And there has been some confusion on exactly what this means. And we are in the process right now with working with the legislators and the Senate representatives to get a clarity on this. Oh, somebody added, so can the schedule be updated throughout the year if it allows, if it follows book? Yes, it can. If you change your fee schedule, you need to just follow the same requirements that are in R277 407 part subsection 6. It spells out exactly what you have to do is to approve your fee schedule. It's just the 2 board meetings and public notice. So you can change it as many times as you want, as long as you do follow those guidelines, those requirements. So back to this. This is what it currently says. An LEA may not charge a secondary student a fee for a curricular activity or a co-curricular activity that is required for the instruction of established core standards as described in subsection 53E 4202 or 53E 4204, and that is not an elective. This part where it says that is required down to that is not an elective. That whole section was added at the very end of the session, and it was trying to clarify what a co-curricular activity was and what was allowed. Just know that this is going to change because there's confusion on what is considered an elective, because you can have a class that is a requirement for one student, but an elective for another. If a student, say like science, and decided to take an extra science class, sitting right next to a student that was taking the same class, but it was a core class. So how to determine which student could be charged a fee and which couldn't. So just know that this part of it is going to change. There's going to be some more clarity as far as exactly what they're trying to get to. So past that, this is starting in 25-26. You may not charge a fee for a secondary student, a fee for the fees for during the day and for some co-curricular activities, except for the following. And this is the following. You'll be able to charge a fee for instructional equipment or supplies, driver's education, open enrollment application processing, charter school application processing, competency remediation programs, which you could before anyway. Most of these you could already be charging a fee, except for grade 6. They made that clarification. I don't know if anybody was charging competency remediation for grade 6. I hadn't ever seen it, but Obviously, somebody was because they decided they needed to put it in. Musical instrument rental and school activity clothing. So these will be the items that you be able to charge a fee for. Be aware that this instructional equipment and supplies, that may change as well. There may be some more clarity on exactly what that entails, because they're retained by a student made some confusion on whether or not it was an allowable fee. So know that that may change. And I know this probably doesn't help much, because it's like, well, what's going to happen? Well, we don't know until next March when they go back into the session. Also beginning in 25-26, you will not be able to charge any fees for school equipment, except for the life cycle replacement that we talked about earlier. The replacement cost for extracurricular activities, that will be an allowable cost. And there'll be no fees that are general in nature that do not have a direct benefit to the student paying the fee. This is fees like an activity fee or a registration fee. So no more general fees for everybody in the whole school pays this regardless of what classes you're taking. That's going away. You will not be able to charge those. The student must have a direct benefit for the fee they're being assessed. We're just gonna kind of cover real quick about the monitoring review process. We have to monitor the LEAs, and we have a set schedule on who and when. The LEA's enrollment determines when or how often they are reviewed. Enrollment greater than 10,000 receive a review every 5 years. LEAs less than 10,000 receive a review every 10. We also review 5% of the schools. So if we come out and we're doing an LEA review, if you have more than one campus, we will be looking at 5% of your schools. Generally, this only entails one school. Only the larger school districts have more than one school that we'll be doing. LEAs that don't charge fees, we review their websites and social media for evidence of potential fees that they're being charged. Just because they say they don't charge fees, we kind of double check and make sure that that's really the case. Most of the time the LEA doesn't realize what they're asking for meets the definition of a fee. And so we go out, we look for those, and then just get back to them and tell them, you've got to take that off. You can't charge for these things like dress down day. We see that quite a bit. Can't charge for a dress down day. That's a fee. Unless you put it on your fee schedule. If you put it on your fee schedule, you do it, but you can't charge more than what it costs to provide the activity. So if you're going to know this, if you're going to do a dress down activity, it could be considered a fundraiser. Starting next year, you could call it a fundraiser and go back to charging those or having a fundraiser dress down days. So not a school fee. Take that back, not a school fee. Okay, so also if we receive a complaint, know that we generally contact the school fee contact, and depending on the allegation, we may just have the LEA handle the complaint, or if we feel that there's a compliance issue, we ask for additional documentation. And if the documentation may trigger a full review, and if that review is outside of the review schedule, we may bump you up. Say, like if you have a review the next year, we'll bump it up and do it early. But if it's 2 years out, you'll just get an additional review if we receive a complaint that is egregious enough that we feel like we need to investigate further. Most of our reviews, we try to, or not reviews, most of our allegations that we get from internal audit, we send them to the LEA and let the LEA handle it because we feel that's the best avenue for remediation with a parent. So here on the screen, you'll see these are the things that we look at when we do a full review. We look at the UPS upload to make sure that the contra revenue accounts are being used. Those would be, this is also done at the end of the year with your CPA firms. They also are looking at this UPS load and to make sure that the contra revenues are done. So we look at it every 10, but they're looking at it every year. We look at staff training to ensure that you're training your staff on school fees based on their position. We review policies to make sure that they cover everything in the school fee requirements that are listed in 407 and 53G Part 5. We look at the approvals and public comments of your fee schedule, your spend plan. We look at parent notices that they're properly published on the website. Whoop, sorry, go back there. We look at what you're doing versus your policy to make sure what you say you're going to do is what you're actually doing. And most of these items we do long before we ever reach out to the LEA. We try to look at all this document before we interrupt your activities, you know, because we know that you're busy and you don't really have, you know, excess time. So we try to do much of this before we reach out to you. We look at these policies through your website, and anything that we can get through data that USB already has, we do that before we ever reach out to you. Once we have reviewed all of the policies and have gotten as far as we can, we send a letter via email to your director, and it's CC'd to the school fee contact, your BA, your board chair, and certain individuals at USBE, so that everybody's aware that we are looking at school fees. In the letter, we indicate the activities and the schools that are selected for the review. For the schools selected, we request the general ledger and invoices for the specific activities that we're going to look at. And then we also request the roster for students that, it's like if we're going to look at basketball as the activity, we want to know all the students that participated in that activity, so we can then go back. We do a selection of students that had participated in the activity, and we request their student statements so that we can review the student statements to make sure that the fees that they were charged are on your fee schedule, were approved, not more than the maximum. We also ask for the list of students that received a waiver for the year, because we look at a sample of waiver students to make sure everything that should have been waived was waived as appropriately done. So if we find a fee on the fee on the student statements that wasn't approved or wasn't properly waived and should have been, generally those are asked or required to be refunded to the student or students that was inappropriately charged. After we finish the review, we schedule a meeting to discuss the issues that we found. We offer recommendations, answer questions, and provide technical assistance. Our goal is to assist you to ensure that you're in compliance with the code and rule. After we've done the review, we send out the notice of non-compliance. After the exit review, we send out the notice of non-compliance. It's just a formal letter saying this is, you're receiving a cap. And it gives you timelines of when you need to respond to it. When you get that notice of non-compliance, you have 15 days to request an informal hearing. Generally, when we do the exit interview, we've already agreed upon the actions that you're going to take. But if you get the corrective action and maybe you don't understand it or have thought about it and maybe have a better way and want to discuss it further, just give us a request to do an informal meeting. You have 15 days after that cap to request an informal meeting. We can discuss it further. If there isn't any issues, then you have 45 days from the notice of non-compliance and the corrective action to send us a formal acknowledgement that you received it and that you will comply. It doesn't mean you have 45 days to finish the cap. It just means you have 45 days to acknowledge that you've received it and that you're going to comply to the requirements. In that response, we ask that you give us an estimation of when it will be completed. We know that some things are only done once a year, and in that case, the corrective action would stay open and until the action was completed, until the corrective action was completed. In the corrective action, it gives you what is out of compliance. It gives you the specific code or rule that shows why you should be doing it. It gives you the recommendation to remedy the issue. And this is where if you get it and you feel like maybe that's not going to fix the issue, that would be a time to get back to us and say, you know what, I don't feel like this remedy is going to fix the problem. Let's do this. I'd like to do this, or that would be a chance do your informal meeting. But the recommendations to fix it, and also it lists the documents that needed so that we can verify that the condition has been remedied. If you do not respond within the 45 days of getting that corrective action, we are required to send out a second notice of non-compliance. And in that second notice, the LEA would be required to appear before the finance committee and explain why you're not complying to the corrective action. Scott and we never want to get to that point. We don't want to. So we will hound you. We will get back to you and make a very strong effort to make sure that you don't ever have to come before the board and explain why you're not doing something. So also know that you have 15 days. If you do receive a cap that requires financial consequences, say like you have to pay back or refund, you do have the right to an appeal before the finance committee. So you have 15 days from the notice of the cap to request an appeal before the finance committee. And you can just do that by sending something or calling our office, Scott or I, and we will work with the finance committee and get you on the schedule so that you can have your appeal with the finance committee. So real quick, some of the common issues that we have seen: spend plan for each fee. Sometimes it'll just have the fee and not have a spend plan. So just know that each fee has to have a spend plan. Probably biggest issue that we see is missing components in the policies, or that the policies are updated and reviewed annually. And we highly suggest that you put the date of when it was reviewed right on your policy, because then you don't have to go back and try to find when it was discussed in the board meetings, and to make sure that, you know, they are reviewed or adopted annually as required. The school fee data uploaded to UPUS, this is less common, like I said, because your CPA firms are looking at this, and so each year it's getting less and less. I think last year we only had a handful of LEAs that didn't comply with that requirement. Fees not being waived, and this is generally, I think, because these are fees that are charged outside of the beginning of the school year registration process. You know, it's outside of that little process that is fairly consistent, or fees not being waived that LEAs didn't know were subject to waiver. Competency remediation comes to mind, or school-sponsored dances, those types of things. Those are weren't being waived, and so are subject to waiver. Are probably the biggest thing that we get hotline allegations for is booster clubs or parent organizations. Not that they're not school sponsored, so to speak, but the booster clubs are requiring items to be purchased or brought to school that aren't on the school waiver, on the fee schedule. And because the booster club is acting or could be perceived as school sponsored, parents are complaining, you know, that the booster clubs are requesting things, you know, the school is requesting things when really it's the booster club. So we highly suggest that you have some kind of policy governing your booster club so that they are aware of what their requirement, you know, they can't require anything to be purchased or brought to school as a condition of being on a team or group. They just don't have that authority in a booster club for a school sponsored activity. So that's a kind of a recommendation that you know, develop a policy governing your parent organization or booster clubs and what they are eligible to do. Parent notices, this is a big one that we see, and we feel like if parents get noticed properly on school fees, the amount of complaints and even the number of findings goes way down. So parent notices that are required, there is quite a few in school fees. Publish the parent notice on each school's website. This was newly changed in board rule in May. So each school must have the fee schedule and the spend plan, fee policy, the waiver application, the fee waiver decision and appeals form, and the school fee notice for family. All of this needs to be posted on each school's website. Generally, charter schools only have the one website, but if you have more than one campus and each campus has their own web page, make sure that this is published on each school's website. If you do have more than one campus and each school has its own website, we highly suggest that the documents are published to the LEA's main web page and linked at the school level back to the main page, because we have found inconsistent documents, old documents. You know, you just want to be consistent with the message and the information that's going out. So you don't have to do it that way. We just find that that keeps it more consistent across the LEA. Registration material must include the fee schedule and fee waiver policy. So anytime you send out, whether it be online or hard copy, you have to send the fee schedule and fee policy to each family and each student. And if you have a population of more than 20% that speak a language other than English, you have to provide a translation. We do have, I think, 4 or 5 different languages available on our webpage that you can have. But if you have a language that is not one that we've translated, you'll have to provide a translation or a translator for these families that don't speak English. And I don't think anybody has a population greater than 20%. I think there's only one student or one district at San Juan that has a population of greater than 20% of their enrollment. So also, you also need to provide a notice to parents if you're going to collect fees from students in grade 6, if they're following a secondary. So just note that is an annual notice that needs to go out to parents. And I think that is it. There's our email and our resource page that has like our application and those translations if anybody's looking for them. So if you have any questions. I guess not.
Well, Barbie, thank you so much. That was very informative, and speaking for myself, perhaps overwhelming amount of information.
Yes. Feel free, anybody, if you have questions after this, after it settles in and you have a burning desire to know more.
Yes, well, thank you, and thank you for making yourself available to the charters. I
All right,
don't want
thank
to
you.
speak for the directors, but I'm sure they'd like to reach out and ask questions early before having to speak to you later. So,
We'll be happy to help.
all right, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Next up, Amber from our team is just going to give a short little, a little bit of information about our UCAP website. And Amber, I'll let you take over when you're ready.
Hey, I was just setting that up. You guys see that okay?
Nothing sharing yet, Amber.
Okay. Let me try this again. Did it work that time?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Perfect. Okay. All right, so for those that don't know me, I'm Amber Hellstrom. I'm part of the staff with SESB. I'm the UCAP developer and the IT specialist. So I just want to say happy Mother's Day to those mothers that I saw was yesterday, but hope you had a good day. I'm just gonna share a little bit about UCAP. So the URL is just right here on the screen. I'll give you a second to write that down if you like, but you should be getting a copy of this later if you want it. UCAP stands for Utah Charter Access Point, and it's a web application established by the State Charter School Board. It can be used to find information about Utah charters. UCAP can not only display static information such as images and text, but it can also save data, pull data, and manipulate that data into reports and dashboards. It's a very powerful tool that we use for SESB. The SESB does currently have another website, utahsesb.org. This is going away. So we're just giving you a heads up that we're taking this website and we're going to move all that information into UCAP. And we're just going to use the one web application. We are more than halfway through with the process and we'll keep both websites going until completed. The main contacts for UCAP is Marlene. She's the project manager, and then also me as the developer. So if you ever have any questions, concerns, found a bug, just please don't hesitate to let us know. We'll try to do the best that we can to fix it or tell you how to do something or find it. And I just want to display some of the items that might be useful to you as directors. Go ahead and kind of look through that information. I'll talk briefly about some of these, but I'm not going to hit every single one. So this is UCAP's new landing page. It used to just be a login screen, but we're trying to make this more public and get as much information to the public as we can. So we've changed that. This is our new landing page. There's a lot of information just on this page. You don't even need a user account. You can learn more about how charters and authorizers work. You can use the directory to find a school. The SESB's board meeting materials are easily accessible. You have access to data reports such as enrollment and financials. And just in the top left corner, I was going to mention that that's the main menu button. So the button with the 3 horizontal lines. And then on the right, if you do have a user account, you can log in and you can get even more based on your user role. So as directors, you would have more information than some other users. UCAP is often used for its directory, so I wanted to point it out. And this gives you the contact info for charter LEAs and schools. You can filter by title. So if you're trying to find the director of this school, or if I'm trying to find the business administrator of this school, or all the business administrators, you can filter by who authorizes this charter school. I just want to point out that these contacts are pulled from UCAP, and they are users that are active. So if you've had people, I don't know, like quit recently, then you'd want to update your LEA's user accounts because they would still show up in this contact list until you deactivate their UCAP account. This is just a picture of how you can edit your user accounts. It's the LEA's responsibility to manage who accesses UCAP for their LEA in school. If a person leaves the LEA or school, the LEA should deactivate the person's account. New employees may need a user account created. If you're unsure how to do any of these steps, just contact me or Marlene. We can help you out. The as staff, SUSB staff, we recommend limiting this ability to manage user accounts to the board chair and the director of the LEA or school. I know that some of you allow like your business administrators, which is fine. That's your choice, but we recommend just keeping it to a limited amount of people that can edit your user accounts. This is an example of the school profile page. It has a lot of information about your school. The location, it should have your mission and vision. If it's not in there, just let us know, we can add it. Other key details of the charter school. You can view reports on your student proficiency, enrollment, and financial reports. This is a new page we've added really recently. We're starting a page to show upcoming and past charter news and events. You can view when the next SUSB board meeting is being held. You can see what trainings are being offered and any other news or events that we want to add. Sky's the limit. We would love to display some of your exciting news or events for your schools or LEA. So if you would like us to add them into UCAP, you would just scroll down to the bottom of that page and you can click the Let Us Know Here button. It's just a short little form and send it to us. So for an example, maybe you'd want to announce that you're hiring. You can just let us know, we can add it, and then we can announce it to whoever gets on to UCAP. Or maybe you have a special event that you would love more people to attend and celebrate with your school. So this would be another thing you can send us. I'm sure there's lots of ideas. And then lastly, to go along with these charter events, on our landing page, we have a calendar list that will also display these. And to take this one step further, we've developed a way to subscribe to a newsletter, and it will also tell you the upcoming charter news and events that are occurring soon. UCAP does have a collection of trainings offered by the State Charter School Board. So if you were unable to attend a training like today, these are now in UCAP also. So you can search for the date, what kind of meeting or training you may have missed. And it will either give you a YouTube video or a document, or just like the info of who should I contact to get this info. And then I also will display any trainings in the future too. So you can find the time, date, place of upcoming trainings. UCAP does host the State Charter School Board's Charter School Account Framework, CSAF. These are forms that are used to, save the historical work and to communicate with LEAs on their progress made in order to fix deficiencies or issues found by the State Charter School Board. So our goal as a charter authorizer is not to like, I was gonna say, it's to support you and work through these issues so that we hope to get them resolved. And this is just how we can keep track of the work that we've done with you. So. And then lastly, I wanted to mention one of UCAP's newest pages. This is the rulemaking process. In here, the SESB can post their public notices. And at the bottom, there's a way to submit public comments about these notices. So currently there are 3 public notices available in UCAP right now, and they're ready to be reviewed, and it's up to you. So, any questions? Because that is the end of my presentation. So if there's any, it's just a quick presentation about UCAP. I hope you guys like use it. Let me know if you have any concerns. So
Amber, thank you so much for showing us just a little sneak peek of the UCAP. There's a lot on there, so thank you for that.
okay, thank you, Brendan.
Yeah. Next up, we have Julie from USBE. She's going to be sharing a little bit about teacher evaluations. And Julie, when you're ready, I'll let you introduce yourself and teach us a little bit.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Lundell from USBE, and I am the specialist over teacher evaluations and also teacher retention. And so I'm going to share with you some of the resources that we've been developing and some of the changes that have come about in code and rule recently. And I like to think of growth-oriented evaluation as a tool to retention. And so as we kind of go through this, you can think about maybe your own system or things you might want to change in your system, or what you have been using that maybe we could tilt in a more growth-oriented way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, that looks good on my side. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yep, we can see it.
Great, thanks. So at the top of this slide, and in most of these slides, there's a bit.ly that's just a shortened little direction over to the teacher evaluation webpage on USBE. And it is a web page that is in development, but it has a lot of resources already on it. We're kind of working on the beautification and full functionality, but I want you to have that because that's where most of these resources can be found. Let's see if we can get my slideshow to go. There we go. So there's me. It looks just like me, doesn't it? So in this session, I'm hoping to go over with you some of the resources that are available and professional development that we're going to be offering, and explore some of our draft model evaluation tools and help you to really start to think through how growth-oriented evaluation might benefit your LEA. And it'll be successful if you feel like I have some new ideas about growth-oriented evaluation and how that could look in my LEA. And I also have a basic understanding of the resources that are available. So that's what we're shooting for here in this little time slot. Now, I feel like I have to start with a little bit of a disclaimer because some of you have maybe met with me in other things where I'm sharing with a mixed group of charter and districts, and I'll make a lot of statements that are about like, you know, you're required to do this. And charter school requirements for evaluation are actually quite different. And you should consider that when I say it's required, you can say it's recommended. So it's just not exactly the same as district requirements. But a lot of charter schools do choose to use the state resources and the state model tools. And so I want you to be like fully aware of what's available and what can be used as a resource for you. So you can consider things best practice if I'm telling a district that they have to do this reporting or that thing. It's probably not specific to charters. However, there is something that charters do need to do. They do need to have an evaluation system, and it needs to be able to designate teachers as being effective in their practice or not effective. There's some other legislation around different pay fee scales and different, kinds of additional fees that tie into whether they were effective or not, or if they're in that not effective category. So your evaluation systems need to be able to at least state those kind of minimums. Some new things that did come up in evaluation this year, we had Senate Bill 137 and also Board Rule R277323. And new for this year is the annual reporting requirements have been removed. Now, charters weren't held to that, but many of our charter schools have been reporting their teacher, whatever their level was in evaluation. They did report that back to Cactus. That's no longer going to be collected information. So you won't need to report that back to Cactus if you were doing so previously. We have formative and summative evaluation definitions. And that's helpful because we are also allowed to have up to a 4-year evaluation cycle now, in which case you would have some formative years and some summative years. And also new for this year is aligning current evaluations to the Utah Effective Teaching Standards, which we've had out for about 1.5 years now, but this is kind of the point where we're really making sure that our systems match those standards so that teachers are being evaluated on the standards that they should be teaching to. And then new, a lot of these evaluation code and rule changes were done with sort of a 5-year caveat. You can continue with your previous systems for up to 5 years, but in that next 5-year point, you could switch over to a 4-year cycle where you have formative and summative pieces. You could, so previously we didn't really isolate out information from our chronically absent students. This is one of those pieces that's kind of recommended into charters because it's not a requirement per se, but for our districts, they are being required not to use that data from chronically absent students. And we also have 3 levels of performance instead of 4. With suggested definitions for those levels. And you'll see in the model system that it is built around this. It's built around the 3 levels and the suggested definitions. So things that are not used in our state systems are end-of-level assessments and the student of chronically absent, data of a chronically absent student. So next I'm going to share with you some of the resources that we do have available for you. And as I go through those, I want you to kind of keep these questions in your mind. Is how are these resources growth oriented? How can they help an administrator support growth for their teachers? And how could they help an educator to support their own continued growth? And those are kind of the critical guiding questions that we are trying to focus on as we move towards a growth oriented evaluation. So I hope you'll kind of like roll those around in your head and keep those in your thoughts for the next few minutes. And I have, when I'm presenting, I can't really see the chat very well. So let me go back there. Just to confirm, we will not need to report evaluation status of each educator this year. That is correct. We won't be collecting that information this year. We are kind of in this leeway that the law isn't actually effective till July 1st, but we just made a determination that we won't be asking for that data. So you won't need to turn that in this year. I don't know why my screen stops there, but let me try something. Okay. Summative and formative evaluation definitions. These are pretty critical in moving forward with summative and formative cycles. And so kind of understanding these definitions is helpful. We have formative evaluation means a planned ongoing process which allows educators to engage in reflection and growth of professional skills is related to the Utah Effective Teaching Standards. And this is going to look like a goal setting process, a process where an educator is able to set goals, reflect on those, get support from administrators or coaches, mentors, and move forward in their practice. And that is going to be, and I'll show you a document that kind of supports that process, but that's going to be the formative evaluation pieces, is kind of a goal setting and growth process. And then the summative evaluation, this is very similar to our previous definitions, but it's an evaluation that a supervisor conducts. It summarizes an educator's performance during an evaluation cycle, and a supervisor or school district may use it to make decisions related to employment. Just a visual here to kind of help you see how these two different pieces play out. In summative evaluations, we have our self-assessment, our student and parent feedback, reasonable number of supervisor observations, student academic growth data, and evidence of professional growth. And those are the things that always need to be in a summative evaluation. And then over in our formative evaluation, this is kind of what a cycle might look like if an educator was on a formative year. And I want to pause here for a moment about when that might happen. Most often your provisional employees, would want to have a summative every year on a provisional employee, those first few years when you're giving them that extra support, extra check-ins. But you have an experienced teacher that's doing well, you might be able to switch over to a formative for 3 out of their next 4 years. And in a formative, you're still collecting data, the teacher's still growing. Have a self-assessment where they're reflecting on their practice, setting goals, a professional growth plan where they're setting those goals and responding to them. There's still observations. In our new rule, it shows that one of the observations would be by an administrator, but other observations could be provided by a coach or a mentor or a peer, whoever was designated by your school. Just so that the teachers are getting that ongoing feedback on their practice. There's kind of a reflection on goal setting throughout the year, continue to engage in professional learning and gathering your data around student growth. And that would kind of make your formative cycle. It's kind of a growth cycle. Then on a summative year, you would look at all that data, and some of those actual scorings would take place. So a few of the tools that we have available from the state are self-assessment, a professional growth plan, classroom observation tools, some observation feedback protocol, and summative evaluation documents. And I am going to stop sharing this screen and share a different one so that I can actually go through some of those resources. Okay, so this is a copy of the documents that are on that web page, and on the web page they are downloadable for you. There's PDF versions of everything I'm sharing here and more, and I will be continuing to add to those resources. If you'll remember previously, if you use the Utah teacher observation tool, we had observation and evaluation that were married like this. They were just very tight. And pretty much if you were observing a teacher, you were directly evaluating them that year. And a growth-oriented evaluation separates those things out. So observation is a tool that you are using to support teacher growth and give them feedback. And if there's concerns, it could be an indicator that additional supports are needed there. But the actual evaluation is more the preponderance of all the evidence and all the indicators that are brought to the table. And so you'll see this, instead of having one tool available from the state, there's multiple pieces to this. So the first one that is there, and this is just an overview of how all those different resources could be used. I'm not going to spend too long here, but just so that you know that's available. If you're like, oh, what is this? What are they thinking it would be used for? This kind of goes through the different components and the 3 levels and their suggested definitions. And the first tool is a self-assessment. And this self-assessment is intended to be used by the teacher. as a way to indicate what they feel strong in and what they would like to focus on. And from a school administrator standpoint, it's kind of a gold mine. So you'll notice at the top of the categories, it has growing, I'd like to focus on this element later. Growing, I'd like to focus on this, or focusing, I'd like to improve my skills in this area soon. Confident, I feel good about my skills. And teacher leader, I could teach others about this. And then there's reflective comments to the side, not intending that you would necessarily reflect on every single part, but that there's a place that you could say, oh, here's what I want to grow more in, or here's what I know a lot about. On the right side, you'll see is the actual standard and the elements, and each element has a couple of indicators of what that might look like in a classroom setting, because a teacher that's just reading an element, might be like, what do they mean by that? So there's a couple of bullet points that just share if these are some things that might look like in classroom practice. So as a teacher is going through this, it kind of gives them a way to say, here's what I want to focus on this year, in the near future. Here's something I'm awesome at that I could help someone else. So a coach or an administrator can look at that and know, oh, I have a number of teachers that are interested in professional development in this area or feel like they need support in this area. Or I have someone who's awesome in this area and I could pair them up to support someone else that's a new teacher who needs support. So it just kind of gives the sharing of information around strengths and growth and how that could be used. So the self-assessment in this model is used just to drive growth and goal setting. Oh, before I do this one, let's see. Maybe I'll just do that one. We need to show a professional growth plan, but this is a classroom observation tool, and it is back-to-back 2 pages. So it's, one page printed back to back, and it has an indicator for each of the standards and elements except for standard 5. Standard 5 is more of that piece that's around ethical behavior and appropriate communication and things like that. So these are things you would actually see in classroom instruction. And there are 18 indicators on here that are aligned with the standards. This classroom observation tool has actually been fairly broadly tested in both elementary and secondary setting. And it is set up specifically, you'll see at the bottom, to allow for a component of areas of strength and opportunities for growth. And this is also broken down onto a 3-point system of not observed, developing, or applied. So developing being not observed, just it says in the little small print up here, probably just wasn't seen in that window of time. But if it perhaps should have been seen, like it was a problem that it wasn't in that window of time, the administrator needs to put that in their evidence notes of here was the concern. Otherwise, it's just, not at this time in the 20 minutes I was in there. Developing is sort of that it wasn't fully implemented, or there was some, something that lacked consistency, or there was some kind of not quite there yet piece. And applied is just evidence that this element was there. So this is a classroom observation tool that you can use aligned to the new UX. And this is also just a shorter classroom observation tool. There's 4 of these, 1 for each standard. And this would be if you're wanting to target a particular standard, either as a school or for an individual that's working on a goal. It just gives you a place that kind of breaks it down into a little bit more targeted area, or could be used as walkthrough tools for just shorter little targeted feedbacks. All right, I really do want to find this other document here that has. Okay, I'll show you this, and then I might have to change screens. So this is a summative evaluation document. I have a long form and a short form of this, depending on the need of the LEA. The long form kind of directs reflection back. This is something that would be filled out mostly by an administrator ahead of time, but then would meet with the teacher on a summative evaluation. just reviewing that you have looked at stakeholder feedback, classroom observations, educator self-assessment, professional growth plan, kind of have reviewed all that data, made any commendations or recommendations from all that data. Then each of the actual elements are in this piece that you can note and write evidence or comments on, and then kind of an ending actual summative evaluation where scores are, the evaluative score is chosen based on the preponderance of the evidence, and just signing that it has been discussed with the educator. There's also a short form of this, just depending on the needs, which is very similar verbiage. It just only, instead of scoring every single element separately, it just kind of generally says, if there's elements of concern or elements of recommendation. So both of those links, depending on your need. And I'm going to stop sharing that and close that for a second, and I can maybe go look at my chat. Has the observation tool been tested for virtual environments? No, actually, it hasn't been tested for virtual environments. That would be something to try and consider. So it has been done all in live sessions so far. All right. There's one more document that I need to show you, and I'm not seeing it here, so I gotta go grab it. This is a professional growth plan. And this is a document that could be used. It's definitely used to drive goal setting. But it could also be used as just a formative year documentation. All right, let me share this, as you can see. All right, so this is actually off of the evaluation web page, and the bit.ly goes to this next spot where we're going to teacher evaluation. And it's no picture yet, it's in development. But we kind of have the start here, and you actually have the Utah Effective Teaching Standards on a quick link right there. And on the second tab here, we have the evaluation resources. So everything I have shared thus far today is in here. It has what the resource is and kind of a little overview of what you might use it for. And then this is the professional growth plan that I wanted to show you. All of these can be downloaded for your use. And if for some reason you want a Word document, if you need to make changes for your environment or want to put your logo on it, you can just email me and I can provide Word documents as well. This professional growth plan is something you would start at the start of the year, and it could be used for a formative evaluation document to just document that teachers are continuing through that growth cycle in a formative year. And it just directs kind of a self-reflection and goal setting. So self-reflection around self-assessment, what did they want to grow in? Where are they at? Setting standards, aligned goals, and then submitting to an administrator for conference as needed, depending on requirements of the LEA. Because the definitions around the actual levels is around student growth and professional growth for the educator, the goals are aligned with that too. So they would have a goal around student growth and a goal around professional growth for the educator. And a little spot here for supports needed. So that's a little cue to the administrator of, oh, here's something I could help or direct someone to help them with something they're working on. There's a mid-year checkpoints just so that they don't set a goal at the start and forget all about it. I think you should reflect on your processes frequently, but this at least builds in a mid-year check where you kind of make a check on it. What's the evidence for growth? What am I doing to continue my growth on both student learning and professional growth? And then at the end of the year, a final, here's how the goals went, successful or otherwise, and then a little looking ahead. Now that I've made it through the year, what do I want to work on next? Because that's kind of a good point to say, oh, either during the summer, I might like to do this professional development, or when I come back in August and I can't remember what I was going to do, there's a note here that says, hey, here's some things that I maybe thought would be good to work on next year. And if this was used as kind of an annual formative documentation of that reflective goal setting process, then there's just a sign off that you reviewed it with an administrator. Go back to those documents. Let's see. Back on the presentation, does that look right to you?
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. Current slide. So that's the overview of the tools and resources available. There's also some additional resources around giving effective feedback to teachers in a post-observation conference, and just a few other supports that are in there that you're welcome to use any and all of to help you have a growth-oriented evaluation system in your school. Then finally, we do have a lot of our charter schools that rely on the state for what we used to call rater certification. And we're rebranding this and we're calling it observer calibration, but you will be a certified evaluator when you are done. And this course will be available starting sometime in June is the goal, and we're on track for that. So we'll have a course that will be available. It's asynchronous, so it's done on your own time frame. And it's approximately 3 to 4 hours of coursework around evaluation and the code and the standards and deepening knowledge of standards and how they look. And there's some video calibration within that piece that's within the Canvas course. But then about half of that course is that you go out into an actual setting and practice with an experienced administrator. So you may need to find an administrator from a neighboring school, or if you don't have more than one at your own school. But that's kind of that piece of actually practicing in the field with the evaluation tool that your location uses. So if it's a new person, they wouldn't be able to totally finish the course until after school starts, because they would need teachers in classrooms to work with it on, but they could do all the pre-work ahead of time in the summer. Now, for our administrators that are already certified, there's nothing that requires them to recertify. However, I think we would all agree that people need to be familiar with their new system. So, and also in our board rule, we have now a direction that would require a plan of ongoing learning for our administrators. So it can't just be a one and done. There needs to be some kind of way that they're refreshing their skills. So we're going to have a refresher course as well. That's for experienced administrators. It will be about half this length, probably or even less, probably in the 2 to 3 hour range, where they are working, just doing a refresher on their skills and the latest code and the latest policies, and getting them kind of up to speed on wherever we're at. So that's something that either one of these are available to you. If you want to take them this summer, you can take the full version of calibration, or you can take the refresher course, and I'll be sending out updates on those in the coming weeks. So looking at our learning intentions, I hope that you have a little bit more of an understanding about what growth-oriented evaluation might look like in your LEA, and have a basic understanding of the resources that are available to you and the professional development that will be upcoming to support you with those things. And back to me, here is my email contact, and I do maintain an evaluation email listserv group that I send updates out to just whenever I have new resources, or like when these courses come available. And a number of you are already on that, but if you have not in the last week or month gotten emails from me about evaluation, then you're probably not on it, and I would love to add you. So if you email me at this email, then I will put you in that group, and then you'll just make sure that you or your designee, whoever you would like to know about this, are getting any updates that come up in evaluation. That would be things like when new resources come available or when courses are opening up around evaluation. I am super happy to answer questions about evaluation. I'm, strangely focused on this all day, every day. So happy to talk about it. So that's all I had to share with you today, but I'm willing to answer your questions.
Thank you, Julie. That was great. One question just came in. I don't know if you can see that in the chat.
When will administrator evaluation protocols be revamped? I don't have a specific answer about that, but it's kind of on my agenda. so my plan, I mean, I'm specific to teacher evaluation, but in my head, it makes a lot of sense that all of our other evaluation tools align. It just lined up with their own standards. So that would be administrators, and that would be counselors, and that would be coaches. And so I've already started talking with some of those different people across USBE that are responsible for those different evaluation tools. And my hope is that over the next year, we will be able to start aligning some of those additional pieces up, getting their associated standards connected and having those available for you. I don't have specific timelines or anything right now, but only can just assure you that it is on the radar. I'm thinking about that. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, please reach out. I'm happy to be of assistance at any time.
Julie, thank you so much. We really appreciate all that information. Moving along, we have Amber from Ed Connective, and she's going to just give us a little short update, and I'll let her take over. Thank you, Amber.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brendan. I'm so excited to be here with the charter directors in Utah. Again, for those of you who were able to attend in March or watch the recording, it's great to be here with you in May. Just for a quick update with our partnership. Brief reminder, I'm Amber Brewer. I'm with an organization called Ed Connective, and we have a partnership with the Utah State Board of Education that provides one-on-one support to any LEA level leader who is implementing science of reading. So many of you are facing this question, what now with early literacy? After many changes this legislative session, or just in general, where you're at your ongoing, implementation of SB 127, we are here to support you if you are an LEA leader, which all of you on this call are. And we're excited to be a part of that. And yes, it is already fully funded for you by the USBE. So we are in partnership with them. We have an ongoing access to this type of support. And what does this support do? Well, we provide one-on-one access to coaching. So a consultative coach who is able to be a thought partner with you with how you're leveraging and implementing your resources related to SB 127, specifically around supporting effective professional learning. So Julie just presented to us about how to leverage evaluation to spur on effective educator growth as a retention tool. Our coach can help you do that with respect to science of reading. And just in general, the way that it works is that you get to meet with a coach, you set a goal with them, and then you start a cycle of meeting with them on a cadence that works for you for 90 days during a 90-day cycle to work towards accomplishing your goal. I wanted to do a quick partnership spotlight of one of our current participants who gave me permission to share about their partnership. They've been a participant for all 3 of our cycles. So we have had this partnership since summer of 2023. We have completed 3 full cycles of support now. And I wanted to spotlight Rachel Fleming from Wasatch Waldorf Charter. In one of her sessions with her coach, or one of her goals, was to establish a system for consistent feedback for science of reading teachers in K2. And so what they found was, in the past, the feedback that those teachers were getting related to science of reading instruction was maybe a sticky note. Thank you for letting me in your room, which is fantastic for culture building. But perhaps not as effective as it could have been for maximizing instructional change. And so what Rachel was able to do with her coach was to set a vision for what this support could look like, for what feedback could look like for her teachers related to science of reading in K2. And they were able to figure out how to craft glows and grows that are hyper specific to celebrating what the teacher is doing well related to science of reading, so that they'll keep doing it, and offer some data and some opportunity so that the teacher knows specifically what their next step is to take related to science of reading. And so we are so excited and thankful to have Rachel along for all 3 of our sessions that we've been able to host so far over the last year. And speaking of which, across all 3 of those, we have held, as of a week ago, 555 individual coaching sessions with other LEA leaders across Utah. So you would not be alone in joining our support, and we're excited to be able to offer it in this way. And on a side note, this is relatively new. I think when I was here in March, I said it was coming, but it's actually here now. We are able to offer USBE credits to any of our participants. Anyone who participates in our partnership with the USBE, you're able to earn up to a whole half a credit for every coaching cycle. That's about 9 sessions. So you think 90 days, 9 sessions, that's engaging about once every 10 days, about once a week for 30 minutes. And you're going to be able to walk away with a whole half a credit towards your renewal. So we're really excited about that, to have that up and going, and to be able to offer that moving forward for our participants. So if you're interested, or you know someone, maybe you're not the right best fit for this partnership, but you're like, I have a literacy director who is, or I have a professional learning specialist who does this, or I'm going to designate someone because I'm really busy, but I'm going to designate someone to participate in this. We would absolutely love to have them. Our upcoming cycle for summer starts June the 4th. Now, I know many people have July off because they're 11-month employees. That is absolutely cool. Our coaches will be able to work with a participant to set a goal that they can work on in June. Or we will have a fall cycle. This is an ongoing up to 5-year access to this type of support. And we will be so excited to have you join us at any point in time that it makes sense for you in your science of reading journey. I'm going to put the link in the chat for our landing page. This includes all the information about our partnership, several frequently asked questions. It includes a link where you can sign up to get started, or a link where you can stay on our mailing list and get updates, because we also frequently host webinars that are open to various audiences across Utah, that are already paid for those audiences to attend. And we also have made a few trips to be in person in Utah, and we'd love to connect with you while we're there. Thank you so very much. I did see in the chat a name or two of our current participants. So I invite them to connect with others who they think would love to participate in the opportunity as well. Thank you Utah State Charter Board for allowing me to come on and share about our partnership and continue to get connected to those who will hopefully enjoy and benefit and enjoy accessing the support.
Amber, thank you so much. It's a wonderful resource for those schools that need it. So I really appreciate you coming back from your visit in March and following up with us. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And maybe I'll see you again soon at an upcoming meeting.
We hope so. Thank you. As our final presenter today, we have Katie with Ed Direction, and she's going to take over here. I'll let her introduce herself and all the things that she's going to teach us. Katie, when you're ready.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We are super excited to be with you guys today, and we're just really excited about today because we've got a couple of great volunteers who are going to help us out today. Some charter leaders that are among you guys in the state to jump in and help us out today, which is fantastic. It is a little bittersweet because we are coming to the end of our journey together today. We have been together many times throughout the year, but today we're going to tie a bow on things with this great topic of the power of self-evaluation. So we've been able to kind of go through this great journey together through some student-centered leadership, the science behind human behavior, and that's guided us through the perceptual control theory onto creating a needs-satisfying school environment, right up to the positions of control and open to learning conversation. And we're going to add yet another great tool that you guys can use through the power of self-evaluation. Like you've seen in the past, I'm Katie Hurst. I've been with you guys throughout the year. I'm a director at Ed Direction and super excited to be here. And we are also accompanied by my colleague, Charlie Lyons. I'll let him introduce himself real fast.
Hey again, everyone. Great to see everybody. Charlie Lyons, Vice President with MGT and Ed Direction, and I'm coming to you from North Carolina. So on the other side of the world, I guess you could call it. Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Charlie. All right. So as we jump in today, as always, we want to touch on our learning intentions first about what we're going to be covering. And today our learning intentions is that you as school leaders are going to learn how to use these 4 self-evaluation questions, whether they're with individuals, with groups, or just internally with yourself. And you'll just have exposure to those of how you can utilize those and how those can be beneficial to you. You'll also be able to consider how you can implement this new knowledge into your roles, whether you're a principal, a director, an instructional coach. You'll see how you can utilize these roles. And our final learning intention is just a quick review of all the great things that we've done this year together through charter seminars and where you can find that content so you can go back and review it at any time moving forward. And we also have our success criteria as always. And so when we've been successful today, we will be able to use the self-evaluation questions with a partner or with ourselves. School leaders will be able to have considered where they can use the self-evaluation and how they fit into their roles, and that they've recalled and reflected on our learning throughout the year. So hopefully this fits within what you guys would love to hear today. If not, I promise it's going to be super fun. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Charlie to talk about our brief operating agreement we created at the beginning of the year.
So just love starting with this reminder every time because this is something we created together, that we would be fabulous together, if you remember, or at least we would be fab together. And I am very excited about today because we hopefully will be able to focus on learning, actively participate. Katie and I did a little bit of our own self-evaluating and realized it's better to warn people before we ask them to volunteer. So your volunteers today have had a good, at least, a few minutes of warning prior to getting to volunteer today. And so that is one way that we're going to continue to promote the active participation amongst ourselves as a group. And then, of course, just continue to be present and continue to be open with one another so that we can just really maximize our opportunity to learn together as school leaders with all kinds of wonderful May things happening. So just want to keep us focused on being fab today. And again, just real quick, we will spend the majority of our time. It'll be condensed a little bit to make sure you guys get out at 30 after, but we will spend most of our time on self-evaluation and then a few minutes at the end to reflect back on all the things that we've learned together this year and make sure you know how to access this information if you ever need it again. So I think we're ready to go to the next thing, Kate.
Perfect. Thanks, Charlie. All right, we do have a learning guide like we've shared in the past. I'm going to go ahead and put into the chat the link if you want to go ahead and open that up and follow along. As a reminder, anything you see with this little icon in the top right-hand corner means that there are resources and links to activities in the learning guide that you guys can reference and jump back to and follow along with. You've got 2 handouts in our learning guide, one on the self-evaluation and choice theory, and a handout on the 4 questions of the self-evaluation, and then also 1 activity about looking forward. So just a reminder that you've got that to reference and utilize whenever you want. Feel free to make a copy of it, save it to your computer, your Google Drive, adopt it as needs be, but you're always welcome to do that. And as we jump in today, we have focused. You've seen this slide, I don't know how many times this year, but we're going to show it to you a couple more times. But we've been focusing on student-centered leadership and this ability to build relational trust through leading, teaching, and learning and development. And we know that by focusing on these 2 or this leadership capability and dimensions, that we're going to have the greatest impact on high-quality teaching and learning that we can have as we move forward. So we're going to continue focusing on these today as we move forward. If you guys remember, last in March when we were together, we talked about open to learning conversations. This was a tool that we gave you guys to utilize with your schools in order as a way to have some difficult conversations. It's a framework that provides you with a very systematic way of guiding a conversation that's hard to have. It helps you state your point of view, why you're thinking about it, and these different steps you're seeing on the screen all the way to the end of making a plan. Well, today we're going to dive into another tool that is similar to open to learning conversations, but it's another framework that's going to allow you guys to have some difficult conversations if you need to have those. And we know that this time of year, as we're wrapping up the school year, we have a lot of these hard conversations or challenging things that are coming up in reviews and moving forward. So we're going to dive into this framework of self-evaluation and how we can utilize that moving forward. Charlie, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, as she said, this is just going to be another tool that we hope to be able to offer you guys as you have these critical conversations as the year's wrapping up. If we really are thinking about teacher development and teacher growth and how that relates to our students succeeding, I know as a leader, a lot of that comes down to the conversations that we have. That's really where a lot of the growth and development happens for teachers, is within conversations. So like Katie said, we gave you a tool last time and we're going to give you another one this time. That really is, this self-evaluation tool has become my personal favorite to utilize as a leader, but it's also, in all honesty, changed my life as a human being, as well as me and the way that I lead other people in school buildings. This has helped me be a better husband, helped me have better conversations with my wife. It's helped me be a better dad. I've got a preteen boy that's as preteen as they can possibly get. And these questions have helped me guide some of our conversations. I adopted someone when I was 23 years old. I adopted a teenager and, of course, tried to have conversations in many ways with this teenager. And it wasn't until I got these self-evaluation questions and started using them as a tool that I was actually able to make a little bit of progress in my relationship with him. So it's been a big part of who I am in my life, and I just love the opportunity to introduce it to anyone, any chance I get. So this comes from some research that we've talked about already, or researchers we've talked about already. One is William Powers. And if you remember, he is the scientist that developed perceptual control theory. So he started searching around the mid-70s, trying to figure out why living organisms operate the way that they do from a scientific perspective. And so this framework is based around the science of internal behavior and the science of perceptual control theory. The one that really made these questions famous, however, is William Glasser, who we also talked about, if you remember talking about basic needs and the basic instructions. William Glasser really took these questions to the next level as he took the science from William Powers and used that scientific theory to develop a way to have conversations with his clients as he was a psychologist, right? And as a psychologist, he used these questions in helping people have happier lives and live better lives. So real quick reminder about William Powers' theory, and hopefully this reminder will help it make sense as to why these questions work and why they're so important, is this idea of perceptual control theory, which is based on the idea that we all have references inside of our heads. And if you remember, these references are unique. Charlie Lyons references and Katie Hurst references are not necessarily the same, because these references are based off of our personal experiences, right? And so if we think about how many millions of different experiences all human beings have all the time, it's pretty easy to remember that we're all going to have some different references. And it's our work as a human to try to get the outside world in its current state to meet the references in our head of the way we want our world to be. So references get formed from our experiences. And to put it simply, a reference is what we want. That's what we want out of the world. That's what we want to be happening. That's who we want to be. And if we can get the world around us to match those experiences and match those references, then we're happy, we're in balance, things are good, right? But we all know not always does the world around us match the references and experiences we have in our head, which creates that error signal. And that's where these questions come in, is when we've noticed error either in ourselves, then we can use the questions on ourselves, or when we've noticed error in someone else. And we can use these questions to help them figure out a way to get their system back in balance, ideally in a healthy way. So as you think about an error signal, as you think about being out of balance, rather a teacher doing something that you've observed that is not your reference of the way a teacher needs to be doing something, or you've noticed a staff member that's super stressed out or super angry, or you notice a student even that may be out of balance, a parent that may be out of balance coming into your office to complain about whatever it is they want to complain about. These are all examples of a system being an error. And that's where these questions come in handy, is helping them explore ways to get back in balance. The other thing that's interesting to remember about the questions is we're seeking the person's reference instead of telling them what we think they need to do to fix the problem. So it took me years to figure this out. But if someone else is out of balance, it's their references that are out of balance. It's because of their experiences, both currently and in the past, that's creating that error. So very rarely can I recommend something that's going to help them get back in balance. Very rarely can I tell them the perfect solution that's going to fix their problem. It's their reference. It's their perception. It's their error. So it's much more likely for them to get back in balance if they can figure it out themselves. My solutions either A, sometimes don't work, or B, they don't even try my solution. They just smile and nod, and then they walk away and don't even give it a try. So hopefully these questions will give you another tool besides just trying to come up with a solution to fix someone's problem. This is another way that we can approach things. So let me introduce the questions, and then the best way I know to teach it is to model it. which is where our courageous volunteers are coming in today. So the first question that you would want to ask someone is pretty simple. What do you want? Maybe you can see how that connects directly back to a reference, right? What do you want? Or who do you want to be in this situation? What do you want out of this situation? Who do you want to be in this situation? Question 2, what are you doing in order to get what you want? What is it that you're doing? Question 3, how's that working? And then question 4, what's your next step? And there's about 50 different ways you can ask these 4 questions, but I encourage you as you start practicing these that you just follow this script. Don't make it complicated. Just ask these 4 questions. What do you want? What are you doing? How's it working? What's your next step? All right, so those are your questions. There's your set and context of where these questions are coming from. So we're going to start with our first brave volunteer, I believe is Marnie, if I'm correct. So Katie has put together this beautiful slide introducing us to our awesome volunteer. But first, Marnie, I want you to come off, introduce yourself, tell us where you are, what your role is, and then there's a nice little bio there for the rest of us if you want to learn even more about Marnie. So
you can learn all about me right there on the bio. I wish the picture was different, but there's some wrong dates on there too, but that's okay. Enjoy. I'm from Salt Lake. I'm in Utah, and I'm a principal at Guadalupe Charter it's in Rose Park, downtown area.
Awesome. So I've probably been near there. I've been downtown Salt Lake a lot, but next time I'm going to have to come find you.
Please do. We're right by the refineries. You can smell us a mile away.
Okay. Give you a gift card for being the brave volunteer. You have to tell me your favorite restaurant after this.
My favorite restaurant?
Yeah.
I live in Eagle Mountain. There are no restaurants. It's DoorDash. We're lucky to get like McDonald's, that's where we're at.
Okay. Well, DoorDash gift card it is then. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So Marnie is going to give us an example of a situation where she is currently out of balance, currently experiencing an error signal. And we told her that, if she was deciding to move away to a foreign country, we weren't here to deal with that problem today. But if there was anything that was a good error signal that she could share with us, and I don't know what it is. So I'm just going to listen and model these questions, and hopefully you guys can kind of see how they work. So go ahead, Marty, tell us your situation.
All right, I'll tell you my situation. I have a very lovely vice principal that I had hired for 1 year, mainly because I needed an instructional coach. Now she wants to stay for a year, but I feel that when I give her things to do, I'm more in an admin situation. She's not following through, and I feel like I'm constantly micromanaging her, and it's becoming overwhelming to me, and how to handle that.
Awesome. Okay, so explain to me how you would articulate what you want from this assistant principal.
How have I articulated it? Well, we have a weekly meeting on things that I've asked her to do. And we sit down and we say, this is what I need from you. You need to do A, B, C, and D, whatever it might be. And I need this done by this time. And then most of the time, it comes back to me is, well, I haven't finished it because we haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about it. I need your input, which is fine, except for the fact that it's been turned over to her and I want her to just take care of it. It becomes a frustration if I'm constantly doing her job. Sometimes when I get things back from her and she tells me they're completed, they are not. So a lot of times I'll check in on her work and ask to have something put out there. And when I get it back, it's not even a rough draft form. And then I end up having to fix it. And I feel the same way when she comes in and says, well, I want to talk about it. It's like, well, okay, let's talk about it. But then I end up just doing the work for her, or she pushes it on to somebody else. Love her. She's a very nice person. She has great communication with the staff, but for me, it's becoming a point of frustration on how I can communicate that with her. I also have
So
a
you
checklist
want
for her of things
somebody-
that needs to be done.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I was about to
sorry.
say, it sounds like you want somebody that will get things done when you ask her to get them done. There's a list of things that need to be done. And they need to get done. That's
And they need to get done.
mostly
And I
what
don't, if I'm delegating, I just don't have time sitting and hold somebody's hand. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Okay, you want to be able to delegate and know that it's going to get accomplished and not come right back to you after you've delegated it. Okay. Let me ask you, who do you want to be in this situation? What's
Who do I want to be?
Yeah. What kind of leader do you want to be with this lady? Is it a lady?
With this type of thing, I want her to be able to take the knowledge that maybe she's gained from previous experience and apply it. And I want her to feel empowered to be able to do that, and not second guess herself. And despite, I feel like maybe I haven't been as positive enough, even everything you've said today, maybe I haven't been positive enough, or maybe I haven't, I don't know, but that's what I want to be. I want to make sure she understands I'm not here to judge her work. I'm here to support it.
Okay, so you want to be supportive.
Mhm.
And and you want somebody that will get things done when you assign them to be done. And you've explained to me that you have weekly check-ins with her. That's one thing that you're currently doing.
Yep.
Is it fair to say those are not working at least not as much as you would want them to be? Right.
They're not working as much as I'd want to. So I have tried to get her to communicate through text message with me and email. And I've done the same because we're both very busy and I understand that. I have provided her with a checklist of exactly what I needed to get done during a week.
Is that working?
No, because I feel like I'm micromanaging. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not
Yeah.
working. I feel very micromanaging. I don't want to be that way anymore. But I
You
need
don't
the
wanna
things
be
done. So I don't know how to, I need them done.
Okay.
In a timely manner.
So have you thought about what a good next step would be to get her to own the things you've assigned to her more?
No, that's why I'm bringing this to you. I haven't.
Okay.
I have taken advice from other people. I have implemented things that have been there. It's hard because this person is a genuinely sincere, sweet person who wants to do her best job. And I feel, like I said, very micromanaging right now. I'm very frustrated with it. So no, I haven't thought of next steps. I just feel frustrated.
Is her you've mentioned multiple times that she's nice and sweet. Is that helping
yeah.
her get her job done, or is that standing in the way?
No,
Not helping at all for her to be
not
nice and
helping
sweet?
at all.
Okay. So in your past, have you personally ever been in a situation where you had someone you delegated to, and it was successful? That they got things done when you needed them to get it done?
Yes, I have a SPED director that is right on top of it. Usually
Okay, so you
partners that I've
currently-
worked with and in teams I've worked with, I have an instructional coach and a behavior specialist I can turn something over to, and I know it's going to get done in a timely manner. There might be a little bit of feedback they want, but it's going to get done. And I don't really have to hold their hands. And I understand she might need a little more hand holding, but
What works with those people, and what's different about can you identify anything different about how you work with them and how you work with her?
can I identify anything different?
Anything you do differently?
That I can identify right off the top of my head. I'm sitting here thinking about that. I don't know.
Have you worked
It
with
would
them
be-
longer?
No, less. I've known
Okay.
her longer and worked with her in different capacities than I did with these other people. She was one of my instructional coaches in my previous career path.
Is there
Yeah.
something in that? Is there something they do differently? Is there a process that, or is there a way of? Is there something that they're presenting differently that works better?
I don't think there is. That's the thing. Is now that you're talking about it, they're just A-type personalities. They're younger. They just go ahead and get things done, and I don't have to micromanage that. And it could be that I feel like I need to micromanage her a little bit more, knowing her past, knowing what she's previously like. And I think that one of the hurdles that she has is she's used to just always finding resources to do it for her instead of doing it herself.
Okay. One more question, then we're going to cut off the role play. But is it possible that you can be the supportive person that you told me you want to be, even if you have to micromanage her for a little bit longer? Would you?
It's possible if I can make it through.
And what would it look like in order to be a supportive person that eventually releases some of that micromanaging, right?
Probably meeting with her more often, checking in with her more often, holding her to a standard that I need her to be held to. And those are the thoughts that I have had over the past little while, is just continuing that scaffolding a little bit more for her that I thought I wouldn't need to do.
And even though that's not ideal for you, right? It's not the ideal end goal. Do you think that would get you one step closer? Would that be a good next step to meet?
It would be a good next step. Absolutely.
Maybe set up 2 meetings instead of 1 or something along those lines.
Something along those lines, yeah.
And in the meantime, you'd still get to be who you want to be, which is a supportive person. Right?
Would be right.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Round of applause. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So I do honestly want to check in. So you need to send me an email in a couple weeks and let me know if it's getting any better now that you've had 2 or 3 check-ins with her a week and so
I will do so. I will do that.
Hear how it goes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie, and thank you for being brave. And I hope the rest of you, does anybody want to jump off mute real quick and see and share anything they noticed as I was asking these questions? Or as we were having this conversation, sorry. Anything anybody noticed as we were having this conversation? It's okay if you don't want to come off. So some things I hope you noticed. These conversations aren't perfect, right? Like if I just tell somebody what I want, then I can be pretty scripted. But if you start asking questions, conversations can kind of get a little in and out and all over the place. But what I hope you noticed is, I hope you heard these 4 questions. I hope you heard me continuing to seek Marnie's reference about what she really wanted in this situation. And Marnie, was it helpful at all that, do you feel like you have a clear reference of what you want after this conversation?
Reference of what I want after this conversation, yes, I think that was my biggest fear, is I don't want to be a micromanager, and I felt like I was turning into that. And you're right, I could be a little more supportive along the way and still get where I need to be.
Great. So sometimes you have to ask, what do you want? Who do you want to be? Multiple times. What are you doing? How's it working? You kind of have to keep looping back through these questions. But ideally, the goal is, by asking questions, they're getting a clearer reference of what they want, and they eventually hopefully can come up with a plan for what a great next step would be. That could be a plan that they actually will execute on, because it's their plan. It's something that feels like, hopefully this feels like something Marnie can really actually accomplish and do as a next step in getting more of what she wants. So thank you again. And we're going to move to another piece of this puzzle. You may have heard me asking, what do you want and who do you want to be? And I'd be having to go back and forth between these 2 things. Well, the reason for that is, again, tied to the science and an idea that I quickly introduced the last time we were together. And that was this idea that we're all have references in our head at different levels. And it's called levels of perception and levels of reference. And this is an idea that there are things we're trying to keep in balance at a very basic sensory level. Like, I'm hot, I'm cold, I need to, I need to drink some water, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, right? There's also things we're trying to keep in balance at a program level. So like I need my assistant principal to do things when I tell her to do them. That's a program level thing. I need to be able to have one meeting a week and tell her what to do, and then she goes and does them, right? These are things we're trying to keep in balance. However, human beings also have values and principles that they're trying to keep in balance. And what we've learned is those values about who we want to be as a human being. Marnie mentioned she wanted to be supportive. Those actually drive those other levels. So the values and the principles that we're trying to keep in balance, those are informing the program level. Those are informing the sensory level. That's why you heard Marnie notice that even though she really just wants to be able to delegate and let it go at the program level and not have to worry about micromanaging, she's going to be okay changing around what she's doing a little bit at the program level, as long as she can continue to be a supportive person. Being a supportive person is a value that Marnie has. She wants to be supportive. So as long as she's being supportive, she could change some things at these different levels. So sometimes when you're asking these questions, it's down at the program sensory level. I'm hot. Okay. What do you want? I don't want to be hot. What do you need to do? I need to turn on my air conditioning. It's that simple, right? I'm cold. I need to put on a jacket. But then a lot of times you have to shift up to the more of the being level, or more of the values level, more of the principles level, to really get to a solution. So when you're asking these questions, that's why you hear two different levels going on there. All right. So I'm going to model another one really quickly. We have another brave volunteer out here. This time, I want you to see what else you notice in these questions. See if you can hear me kind of going back and forth between the different levels, moving in and out of the different levels. And just what else do you notice from Paul, who is going to first come off mute and introduce himself. Paul, you out there?
Hi. Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Awesome. Yep. I'm Paul Zielinski. I'm an instructional coach at Hawthorne Academy. I'm wearing the same shirt that I'm wearing in that picture. Apparently,
I saw that. I saw that.
It's my Monday shirt. That picture must have been taken on Monday. Yeah. My educational background is teaching middle and high school social studies. And this is my first year as an instructional coach. I also make the very long drive from Eagle Mountain every morning, like Marnie does. So I can attest to our lack of dining options.
Well, I'm telling you, DoorDash cards is it. But
right.
It's okay, Paul, that you have one Monday shirt, because Mark Zuckerberg has the same outfit every day. Have you noticed that?
That's right.
Shirt, jeans.
Yeah.
And he's living a good life. So
it's one less thing you got to worry about.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I was a high school social studies teacher too. So
great
to see you.
Yeah.
All right. So Paul, tell us a little bit about the air signal you have right now.
Yeah, so this is my first year as an instructional coach, and I think my issue is one that a lot of instructional coaches end up having, and that is, how do you support teachers when there is a school-wide or a district-wide initiative that is less than popular among certain members of the faculty, whether they don't see the reason for the change, or they see it as simply one more thing they have to do, something to comply with, rather than something that will, improve their instructional practice. And the real problem is that I struggle with trying to be the supportive coach over feeling like I'm becoming directive, like I'm becoming maybe a part of admin, almost trying to help the teachers implement these things without taking on the role of maybe like an admin adjacent type situation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You decided to be an
I certainly
instructional
don't
coach.
want to do that.
Yeah, you want to be an instructional coach. You don't want to be admin.
Right.
That's what I hear you saying.
Or a voice for admin, or you know what I mean? I'm just there to help what's going on.
Okay. So when you think of the picture in your head of what being a great instructional coach is, like how would you describe what you want to be as a great instructional coach?
Yeah, so for me, I think a great instructional coach is really just kind of that teacher in the classroom next door that you just kind of really seem to get along with, and you can go to them for questions. They'll be there to support you. You see them as equals. There's not the role of instructional coach, I don't feel, should be something separate or something higher or something separated from the teachers. It's just that as an instructional coach, I have more time, so I can, those conversations that you have and you think, man, there might be a better way to do this or something, but we're both busy and we're both trying to teach our classes and we're both grading and we're both handling behavior, right? Those kind of demands have been taken off of me so that I can, provide that extra support, so I can come into the classroom and, be that one-on-one support and help for those teachers. So ideally in that scenario, teachers are excited or at the very least willing to try these new things, rather than me having to kind of be the driving force behind, okay, this is what you've been asked to do. I know because the principal has asked me to support you in doing it. So we can work on it together, right? But if it's unpopular, if the teacher doesn't see the benefit of it or something like that, it makes it a lot harder to work as a pair.
So as you were talking, I was writing down a couple of keywords that seem to be developing a trend here. And you kind of want to be a peer. You want to work on things together. You want to be supportive and someone that provides resources and is like in the trenches almost, if I put some words, like with the teachers side by side, creating the resources.
Co-planning, co-modeling, co-teaching, it's all on the board. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to be, and you want to be relatable. It sounds like
right.
You want to be relatable, somebody that they feel like is not scary, they can go to and get whatever they need when they need it, right?
Yes.
So I can absolutely see how there would be an error signal because between that role and a principal role, right? Or that role in any sense that you're an admin type of role. So let's think more about being relatable, being a peer, being supportive. You mentioned all these mandates from the district office. Do you have any control over those?
No, not really. I mean, the admin will seek coaches' input. We have a few, we have a small district here. We have 2 elementary schools and a middle school. So we have 3 coaches, 1 for each. And they definitely take our they get our thoughts and our ideas on these kinds of things. But, at the end of the day, I'm not a decision maker in that realm. So if something is decided upon at a higher level, that's kind of up to my job, up to me to kind of support that with the teachers.
Okay. So you have a chance to give input, but really, would you say you have more control over being a relatable, peer, supportive person, or do you have more control over district mandates? Which one do you have the most control over?
Yeah, definitely the former.
Okay. All right. And so let's just for time's sake, list something you feel like you're doing well to be that and that is really working, and then one thing that's not.
One thing I think I'm doing well is routinely participating in our version of a PLC. And so when these kinds of mandates come up in the meetings, whether it's checking on progress or just the discussion goes towards it or it's part of our agenda, really making the case for how I am seeing it being successful in classrooms. Really kind of trying to bring my version of data to support how these kinds of things are actually being used by other of our peers in the classroom. So I see, it's working really well with these teachers, and in the 3rd grade team, I have taken this and ran and showing, maybe teachers who are more hesitant to adopt it, kind of the successes that they could be having.
Awesome.
And then
what makes you know that that's working? We'll just stay with the working one now. How do you know that that's working?
Sure. So conversationally, I see maybe some more willingness to try these things.
Mm.
Or at the very least kind of maybe a melting of some of the rigidity of maybe not wanting to do this. Definitely over the course of the school year, I've seen more participation and uptake of the initiatives that we're working on. So yeah.
Okay. So, and I think we could continue to explore this, Paul, because there's several other, I have several more questions I want to ask you, but
Fair enough.
now that you have it a little bit clear, maybe hopefully we've articulated, at least in my mind, I have a much clearer picture of who you're trying to be and some things that you've done that are working, right? Any thought on what might be a next step next time there's a disgruntled teacher that seems like there's a new mandate that they just don't want to be a part of?
Sure. Again, I think the success that I'm having with as far as making progress with those kinds of, those teachers who feel that way, is really being able to make a strong case for the initiative or for the protocol or whatever it is. So I think probably working on, some kind of elevator pitch, really working on the rationale, I don't want to say be a cheerleader for the, the protocol or the whatever is being implemented, but I think that might be my role as far as helping those teachers kind of jump on board. Hello? Oh no. Did I get kicked out?
No, you didn't get kicked out.
I think
Okay.
Charlie did. I think he's
Okay.
back.
I'm back.
Okay,
Really
sorry.
weird. And talk about an error signal. Whoa. But I think I got what you're saying. And so what, and if you continue to be this person that is able to present a strong case,
Yeah.
do your homework ahead of time, right? You
Right.
know that you know examples of where it's working. You're able to present a strong case. Does that help you be the instructional coach you want to be, as far as being a person that's relatable and being that peer and being that high level of support?
I think so. Yeah. It's because it's not there's not a lot of, I guess you would say, external accountability that I can use. So if there's a way to kind of create that accountability internally with the teachers, kind of making that case for the benefits of whatever we're doing. And if I'm much more prepared to do that, I think that would go a lot better.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, hopefully that was a helpful conversation. And again, I look forward to hearing the next time you have to present something out that you're feeling a little bit of hesitation from the teachers or anticipating
Sure
how that presentation goes.
Okay.
And really, I mean it. I want to know about these things to see if it's helped at all. So
yeah.
Thank you again, Paul. Great. And hopefully we'll get to connect in person one day. So thank you for
great.
volunteering.
Thank you.
So again, I hope you had in the second example maybe picked up on some new things. It maybe heard something differently in the way the questions were asked. But again, the goal is the same: getting that strong reference and helping them explore ways that they can be more of who they want to be, get more of what they want in the situation. And hopefully you also see that in both examples, they walk away with a concrete next step that hopefully they can work on, and I can follow up on. I get something I could follow up on and continue the conversation later. And when I do follow up, when Paul does call me, I'm going to say, well, now remind me again what you wanted. Remind me again who you wanted to be. And now, what did you do? Tell me more about what you did. How'd it work? Oh, good. I expect, she tells me how it works. And then we talk about what his next step is for the next time. And the loop continues and continues. So that's kind of how it looks for an individual. I did want to point out that self-evaluation can be a great tool to also use with a group. When I was a principal, I made sure that our staff created what we called a This Is Us covenant, where we explored who we wanted to be as a group at the beginning of the school year, and we built some collective values and a collective identity. I remember one of our groups, we came up with trust, right? We wanted to be trustworthy, responsible. We wanted to be understanding. We wanted to be supportive, and we wanted to be team players. And that spelled out trust, right? So we have processes that we've developed to help schools come up and define their own value statement and their own ideas of who they really want to be and what they want to do and how they want to treat each other. The great thing about having that tool, once you have it, is now you have a tool for conversation for the rest of the year, right? Once we decided that we wanted to do the DIRCH, that was the other thing at one of my schools. We wanted to do the DIRCH, DIRCH. Yeah, it was a middle school, right? DIRCH. I don't even think it's a word, but we're doing the DIRCH. We were going to be determined, integrity, respectful, supportive, and honest, right? That was going to be what we were. This gives me something to now hold everyone accountable to, and gives me something to talk about when I'm in certain situations with teachers or when I'm within certain situations with students. Hey, this is what happened. Remember when we agreed to do the DIRCH? Explain to me how what's going on right now is either helping you be that person that you've agreed to be, or it's not, right? And it gives us just an agreed upon metrics for how we treat each other as we go through the year. That way I don't have to line out every single little thing that has to be done. It has to be done this way, it has to be done this way, it has to be done this way. Instead, we have a statement about who we want to be, and it gives me a different way of having a higher level conversation. If you need help or need ideas on how to develop a This Is Us covenant, typically we go through about a day process with the staff, go through a bunch of different fun activities and a bunch of different engaging conversations to really extract where that is. So if you need more information on what that looks like or how to do that with your staff, Katie and I both email right there. Just send it to us, and we're happy to set up a conversation to talk to you about it some more. Go ahead, Katie, the next one. Again, that just talks a little bit more about that. Just wanted to bring out this positions of control. Remember, we talked about that before. Really, these questions help you be that facilitator, help you move in that facilitator role where you're helping someone else discover what kind of behaviors they need to be doing in order to get more of what they want. Sometimes people aren't ready to be facilitated, and we don't have time to do an example of this today, but we do have this thing that's called the weave. And if someone's not ready to answer questions, if someone's not ready to participate in the conversation, you do have to drop back to that manager role and say, well, you know what? This is what the handbook says. You know what? I've got to be the leader I want to be. And so in this situation, boom, 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 right? But again, remember the manager role and the facilitator role, neither one of those roles are doing any harm. It's just ideally we really could position ourselves into that facilitator role more often so that people around us that we're leading are really owning their behavior and really owning getting themselves back in balance themselves. Next, Katie. Oh, keeps flashing. Katie did such a good job making that little thing. All right, so if you decide you want to use this, here's what I suggest. Start with yourself. They're called self-evaluation questions for a reason. Example, what do I want? I want to lose 20 pounds. What am I doing? I'm sitting in line at McDonald's about to order a vanilla frappe and some fries. How's that working? It's not going to work. What do I need to do next? I need to turn my car around and go somewhere else and get myself a salad. Okay, so that's one way that you can use them. Use them on yourself. Once you feel comfortable using them a few times with yourself, find a trusted colleague, find a trusted friend that is in some error and give them a shot, right? You're not going to do anybody any harm. You're not going to do them any damage by asking questions. That's the other great thing about asking questions. At the worst case scenario, you'll walk away from the conversation and that person will be like, you know what? That person cares. That person's actually likes me and cares about what I have to say. So good luck. Hopefully this was a helpful tool. Next slide, Katie. I don't think that was it. Yep. And we're going to quickly look back and send you on your way. So thank you guys. And again, thank you so much for the volunteers and for the engagement. I had a lot of fun. Katie.
Thanks, Charlie. All right, with less than a minute, we are going to be super quick. We have all of our learning on a learning space. I know you guys have seen this in the past, but you can scan this bit.ly code, type down the bit.ly up here. I'm also going to put a link into the chat, but all of our learning is on this learning space. So if you look, it just will open up here. If you click on Directors Meetings Resources for 23-24 school year, it's going to take you to all the learning that we've done. The learning we did in September, November, January, March, all the way to today through May. And you can access all of those resources. And so if you need anything, please hop back there. Also, my email's on there, so you can reach out with any questions, wonderings, or concerns. I'm going to skip past these slides just for time, and I'm going to leave us here as we close out for today, because we would love your feedback and anything that you guys have. So please scan the QR code. I'll also put the QR code into the chat so that you guys can click on it there and provide us feedback. And with that, I will pass it back to you at the USBE to close us out, hopefully with at least 30 seconds to spare.
Amazing time management, Katie. That was excellent. You're right there. Thank you guys both for your presentations. I know I haven't joined all these meetings, but I found those conversations fascinating. Charlie, thank you for that. It was really, really well done. So thank you guys. And speaking on behalf of the whole state charter school board, really appreciate all your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then for the remaining directors who are here for the last minutes of the meeting, just wanted to thank you guys for joining and wish you all the best with the last month or so of school. And we will see you guys next year, starting up our directors meetings in August or September. So thank you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.